Hi, Dan.
Hi, Kate.
How are you, Dan?
I'm good today. I just cycled to yours. It's actually sunny weather, which, if you live in England, is a rarity right now.
It is a rarity.
But we're not here to talk about weather. What are we here to talk about?
We are here to talk about Let It Go.
Let It Go.
The song we just released.
The song we just released. Who'd have thought that is now on the interwebs?
Yeah, I love Let It Go. I've got a soft spot for it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when we wrote it, I mean, to be honest, I have absolutely no recollection of writing it, as in like bringing the idea to you. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I don't know whether did we do it in the room or well, I don't remember, to be honest, whether you started tapping that note or I think you did it at home. You pretty much wrote everything at home and brought like essences of the idea in. But I don't think you had verses. Maybe you just had chorus idea.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we definitely worked on verses together.
Yes, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And then we were planning like a writing trip. And for the first time ever, we decided to not go to Dunstan Farm, which is our absolute favourite, but to try somewhere different, somewhere a bit closer. And the amount of times you and I have typed into Google self-catering cottage with piano is hilarious.
Yeah.
And they're weirdly hard to find.
They are weird.
They're hard to find.
You had a really good knack for it on Airbnb for a while about like typing in, I don't know whether it was in the search, whether you'd search a certain thing and it would bring up houses that have pianos.
Yeah. Airbnb is a fucking joke now though.
Yeah.
The fees.
The cleaning fees are nuts.
Oh, it's absolutely insane.
But yes, you found this place and it wasn't just a piano, it had a really, really nice piano. I think we actually recorded the Lightning acoustic session on that piano. Like we redid the piano at that place and that came out so it's on Spotify somewhere.
Yeah.
But yes, it was a really nice piano and it was just really fun to write on. And I feel like when you have a good piano, when you've written a song on piano and you actually have a proper piano to play, it just brings the whole thing. You just want to sit by it and create the song.
100%.
And so this place you found, which was called H.I.T.H.
It's called H.I.T.H.
We decided after this, it wasn't like we were like, oh my God, how convenient. We've written an album called H.I.T.H. and we've now found a place called H.I.T.H. This was what inspired the album name. And we wrote a good chunk of songs there, like 5 songs maybe, completely back to back.
I remember getting out the car, and it was this secluded kind of cottage in the middle of Wales.
It was haunted.
Yeah. What?
It was 100% haunted.
Oh yeah, because you just kept hearing creaky.
I had my first ever night terror there.
Oh my God.
I swear to God, I woke up and I was being strangled by this woman and I was I think I was probably just snoring and stopped breathing for a second. But I think in all the creaks, for some reason the side of the house I was on was really creaky. And I'm not saying creaky, it felt like someone was stomping on the floor.
Oh my God.
And we were a whole width of the house apart, so I felt and I had a weird little kid's bunk room next to me, and it was just odd and creepy anyway.
Oh my God.
The whole thing was just odd, and every night I'd go to bed and be you try and sleep and then you just hear this crazy creak and it would wake you up and you'd be like, oh God, and eventually there'd be a period. Anyway, I'm going on, but
how did I not hear any of that?
It just didn't happen on your side of the house. It was only the back. And it was so loud and so horrible that I would maybe never go there again.
Oh my God.
Or if I did, I would ask if I could.
Yeah,
I'd sit downstairs and stay in your room, and you could have night terrors.
Well, that's kind of what's funny, because when we got out of the car, I remember as soon as we walked into the house, we were like, oh my fucking God, this place is so much better than Dunstan Farm.
Yeah, but except, do you remember there was no mood lighting?
Mood lighting and no rugs.
There was no rugs, and all the lights were just on. We had to unscrew half the bulbs because it was it felt like you were on a catwalk or something.
But that's what I mean. We got in and we're just oh my God. And then over the next half an hour, we were like, this place is shit.
Yeah. It wasn't shit, but it definitely the only good thing was the fact that it had
what piano was it? It was a specific type of piano. This is so boring.
Yeah,
sorry,
it's really
but
boring. Anyway, I can't remember.
It was a beautiful type of piano. And we set up the room, and I think we do writing retreats very well, because we get the wine, we get some nice food.
Yeah, the food's always phenomenal.
The food is always
good, yeah.
That can of enchilada sauce, that's cool. We are saying some niche facts here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Let It Go, I think we kind of took inspiration from Nightstorm, our song from the second album, and Erland, who we wrote that with, in writing a song specifically. Specifically, what am I talking about? We go into separate rooms and each write a verse. And Let It Go, the kind of premise of it is essentially emotions are going to catch up with you, and you need to be able to feel them all fully before you can release that, whatever that kind of trauma is, and move on with your life. And my dad always put it in a great way, if a friend comes to your door and needs you for something and you're not in, it's not going to give up. It's just going to keep coming to the door until you answer the door. It's actually a really shit analogy.
Cheers, Dad.
Cheers, Dad. But it's the same with emotions. Like you need to process them basically before you can move on. So that was kind of what we wanted to write the song about. And so we kind of thought, what would happen if we both went away to different rooms and wrote about the worst kind of moments in our lives so far. And I wrote about it was like February 2019, and I was in a very, very dark place. And I was sitting in my brother's bedroom, and I remember it so distinctly. Just, oh my God, it felt like my entire world was crashing down beside me. And I remember just being so distressed and in so much emotional pain that I was scratching myself. It was hot, but like not out of like a, self-harming. It was just like I was just writhing in emotional pain. And I, even in that moment, I kind of realized like, oh my God, like I have never felt pain like this. And I know that this is one of those moments type thing. It's very visceral. And so actually writing that verse felt very easy to do, because like the way I felt and it was all so intense that I could remember it like very easily. And it was, I don't know, it felt very easy to write. How was it writing your verse?
I was just thinking while she was saying that, actually trying to sort of just actually distill what my verse was about. I think mine was more about long-term emotional pain, trauma, things that you carry for a while. Because mine's, do I blame it on the season? Do I blame it on myself? I don't really know. Like sometimes you have a pain, you don't know where the origin is, and you just kind of, and throughout my life I've had different variations. When I was younger, I had like a bit of like a rage problem. I think I had a lot of trauma when I was younger, dealing with grief. And then when I came to an age where I was drinking alcohol, it all came out. Like it was like a sort of, and I was quite like angry, and I'd look for fights, and I would like, which is so unlike me. I'm not a fight,
so
I'm
unlike
scrawny,
you.
really. It's, but I was just angry, and I didn't know where to put it. And suddenly this alcohol gave me the vessel, but I didn't know who to blame, or I didn't know what I was even blaming. I wasn't angry about anything specifically. So for me, and even more recently in life, I think it's like having anxiety and some forms of depression that pop up, and it's like not really knowing where they've come from. It's like, and I think the idea of stopping for a second and being like, okay, I need to just kind of actually spend a moment distilling what these feelings are to try and work through them.
Yeah.
So my verse is a little bit different to yours, but I think that's what I like so much about it. It's like, they're very personal verses, and that's what the goal was, right? It was to go away and sit with your, we must have been gone for like an hour, I think. I find it really difficult, I think, because I was trying to say too much. And then I realized that's all I need to do is say all of it in a broad sense. But I remember sitting in that room for ages being like, I had the melody, and I was like, I've got like, I've got things that I want to say. I've got that lyric that's like, I can taste the soil in my mouth. Like,
I love that lyric so much.
Because it's about, obviously when you are as low as you can go, it's like when you've been at the bottom, that's as far as you can go, basically.
Yeah.
But it was such a cathartic exercise. And it was when we did the Erlen Cooper session, but this one was different. I think it was we were focusing on a different thing, really. It wasn't a relationship pain. It was like a broader sense of emotional pain.
Yeah.
And I think for that reason, I love the song. Not because I get my verse on it necessarily, but I think just that it has two sides, and the story's, it's not a personal story in that sense. The song's about how for everyone it can affect it,
Yeah. And I remember coming together afterwards and singing it and just being like, Dan, why are you not singing on absolutely everything?
Which
like,
is very kind.
I feel like we should all just take a moment to appreciate your vocal on this track, because it's just amazing.
That's
and
very kind of you. I don't like taking compliments, but thank you. But it's fun to do it, and Meadowlark isn't, my voice isn't Meadowlark, but I think it's fun after years of singing with you, and like to have a moment to be like, we sing together sometimes, and we also sing separately sometimes, and like it's not me about. I don't never want to feel like I'm detracting like a Meadowlark song from what its core value is, or what is
But again, I think that's why this song is so special, because it's just about the humanness of like, we all have emotion, and there's two humans in this band, and it's like it's nice to hear from the other side.
True.
It's really nice.
But now I'll go and hide behind your voice again. But
please don't.
Yeah, so obviously that was the kind of writing experience, and it was really good. We actually had the original demo had like a sample on it. I kind of sampled like this weird staccato violin sound. It was like blum 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 blum. And I thought that would make it onto the final recording, but actually I think with the nature of the record being kind of much less about like arpeggiated rhythms and things and more about like having freedom to move around, it didn't really make much sense to put it on there. But which I guess segues neatly into the recording process. Like, how did you find recording this song? You know, I think go on, you go. Actually, I'm just about to bulldoze with my own aspect on it. But
No. I remember finding this one difficult. I don't know whether it's because I went in with such like heavy expectation of like how I wanted it to feel recording, how I wanted to sound. I don't know. I think I was very much in my head when recording this one. And I think I'm like super happy with how it turned out, but I guess because you write it and you feel so intensely about it and it feels so important, it's almost like there's no recorded version that would be good enough, because you're not really capturing the magic of when you actually wrote it. And I feel like for this song in particular, that's kind of the magic you want to capture. Do you know what I mean? Is that initial like very important, raw, vulnerable thing.
I will say though that like that first verse is possibly my favorite vocal you've ever done. And also the trivia is that the whole record, your voice is triple tracked, right? The entire record except that one verse.
Yeah.
And I remember when you first did it, it was so raw and like, you know, your voice croaks in a way that like it just repeated wouldn't have had the same effect. It would have just lost all that kind of sharpness to it.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to Pete, I don't know if it was Pete suggested it or our producer, or whether it was me saying, I don't think we should stack that verse up, or whether it was just unanimous between all of us. And I think you were hesitant, more so I think because you wanted to hide behind that effect a little bit. But 100%. I loved what that did. It was it's so vulnerable. It's just, and what you're talking about is such a vulnerable thing. And I think that's why I love the recording so much, in a sense of like what it does capture is what the song is meant to be. You're talking about something, a very dark moment, and then the chorus lifts up with all this kind of like, you know, we're like a choir of our voices saying like, you kind of got to feel it, right? To kind of move on from it. And yeah, I think I'm with you though, that the song was difficult to record because I think we'd put a lot of expectation on what that song was on the record.
Yeah.
We had this whole record of very quiet songs we'd written, and that was the poppy track, right? That was the one that felt like, oh, this is the one that's got the kind of ooze in the chorus. It's the most akin to our original stuff.
Yeah.
And Pete really leaned into that, and we had that beautiful, like, you know, when Rick did that drum beat, that kind of really, I don't know what he compared to, it was like a John Bonham kind of beat or something, and it was like, and it was so cool. Like, I just remember listening to it being like, that's a cool drum beat. Yeah. Like, and he's playing it with so much feeling, and which was great. Out Rick. Yeah, Rick was a phenomenal drummer to have in the session, and such a light, a beacon in the room. But it was tricky. I think even now, it's just demo-itis, right? I'm still married, and I listened to the demo the other day, and it's not as good as we remember it being. Right. It's rough, and it's not that far off what the recording is really. And,
right.
But I think the feeling of in the room is what we're trying to get back to, and sometimes you just can't.
Sometimes you really, really can't, and that's okay, because it's still important. It's still like our creation. It's still us. It's still the song we wrote. Yeah. And I'm sure people still enjoy it, but.
Well, that's the thing as well. No one's ever heard
exactly. No one's got anything to compare.
So like, you know, I mean, they might not say everyone's just going to like it for that reason, but like, I feel like there's nothing to compare it to. We're comparing it to the feeling we had, the demo version we recorded, like all sorts of things that are stopping us from seeing what the song actually is. And actually, I find sometimes with this kind of thing, a year later, you'll listen to it when that stuff's really distant memory, and you enjoy it differently. A lot of our old stuff now, I listen to. Not an awful lot, but when I do, it's quite nice to go back to. Even our first record that for a while I had trouble with kind of falling in love with, I'm now like seeing it for what it is. I'm like forgetting the hardship of like what the I guess the burden of taking things from demo to recorded version.
Yeah.
It's nice.
And lastly, the video, they're just kind of a beautiful compilation.
We should give a shout out to Josh Trinder.
Yeah, Josh Trinder, man. He absolutely nailed those clips.
It was beautiful. We had our friend down with us for 2 days of recording. So all that footage is just from 2 days, which is wild, really. It was, he kind of managed to capture so much. And yeah, just a nice way to kind of compile those moments. And it reminded me of just how special that recording process was.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get to the end and we go through this rigmarole of like, putting singles out and doing videos and podcasts and sessions and TikToks and you start, and every time you do one, it pushes you further away from that very insular process, the writing, the recording, the private side of being in a band. And watching that video reminded me of where all that joy still lives. It's like in those moments. So, and I'm glad it's similar to our Pink Heart video.
Yes.
In the way of it just kind of really shows behind the curtain a little bit of when you're not just churning out necessary content. It's just us living in the moment. And
exactly. It's like it reminds you actually, like, that's the fun bit. That's the musical, beautiful, creative side. And it's no wonder we look so happy and joyous in it. It's this side that's harder, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and when we're definitely not alone in thinking that. I think every musician in the world finds this bit harder, you know.
And I think people becoming more vocal about it. I don't think anyone's got a solution yet, because the world needs the way the world absorbs content. The only way to be present and visible is to churn out as much content as the world's consuming. But I think it's more and more artists are coming forward to say, this is making me not enjoy my art as much, even though I'm meant to pretend like every time I put a video up I'm having a great time. And don't get me wrong, like, having a conversation with you is lovely. Like, this is not a burden by any means, but I think the idea of living up to a standard of how much content people are absorbing, when the reality is the only joy you really get is from writing and recording
exactly
the song. So it's tricky, but
this is the world we live in.
It's the world we live in, but I think honesty is the best policy.
Truth.
And I feel like we can't end on that note, so we should end on something fun and happy and nice.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
Let me ask you why you think it should end on something happy and nice. Let's dissect that.
Okay. I think sometimes, even though the world is a dark, savagely difficult place, there is so much joy. And I think sometimes if you only focus on the bad, or the last thing you leave is a bad thought, then the next, that is going to live with you until something else comes along and becomes something else.
Yeah.
So leaving with a happy thought, then hopefully that short while afterwards you can bask in a happier thought or a happier main frame of mind.
I agree to an extent, but I also think, like, what we were just talking about, the kind of content creation isn't necessarily negative or positive. It just is what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, musicians find this bit hard. In fact, could even be construed as a positive thing. I mean, it can't actually.
No, I was going to say, where you go with that? There's nothing positive.
No, but like, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it just is the way it is. It's just like factual. You know what I mean?
It is the way it is. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it is just where the music is, the climate of music is. And I'm sure there were things in the 90s and early 2000s that artists had to do that they really didn't enjoy, that killed their art for them or whatever. And I think that's just the way it is, right? The reality is we just want to write and record. Most people do anyway. And I think there's so many other bits you've got to do to be a professional musician, quote unquote.
But the beauty is, what we have got coming up this weekend is just recording music with friends, and
the joyous part.
We've got so much of that joy coming up. And Glumflower, if you haven't checked it out yet, music eventually will be out in the world, but it's a beautiful project that you and I are very happy to be involved in. And then next we've got Nowhere Fast. That's coming out on September the 1st.
Yeah, so which is our last single before the album drops.
Yeah, the penultimate single before the album drops, which is mad. I can't believe we're in middle of August. Like, what the hell? Where is this time gone?
It's gone fast, yeah. It's exciting. I'm really excited to have all the songs in their sort of right order on a record coming out, with the artwork, with everything. Just that complete body of work. I know albums are kind of dead a little bit now, but there's still something sacred about having that completed thing. And that's
I'm really excited.
Yeah, that's what we have for you guys at the moment. But thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching.
Till
next time.
Bye-bye. Meadowlark FM 101.8 FM.